Missy Day, and I'm with my special guest today, Rob Garrett, for part 2 of our conversation that we had last month. And you're watching Missy Day Live, sharing the heart of the city. So welcome back.
It's good to be back. How are you?
Long time no see.
Yeah, it seems like ages.
So can I just brag on you for a minute?
Please. And
Okay.
Take your time, too.
So Rob is, so I first saw him when you were in American Trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had him on 50 Shades of Blonde a couple times, I think. And then he was on my very first show for this show, and now we're back for part 2. But I want to tell you what this guy did before we got here. And so he was kind enough. I have a luncheon that I do every month, and we have a speaker that comes in. And so I just was talking to him, and I said, hey, would you be interested in doing a lunch and coming in? And I had no idea really that he was going to perform. But this afternoon, he sang like about 6 songs for 30 minutes, performed for everybody at Like Minded Lunch. I have to tell you, first of all, I think that you're somebody special because you're so willing to give your time for things. Every single time I've called you and asked to do something, you've done it, and that's amazing to me. So I want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Plus, you're kind enough to invite me on, and it helps me promote some of my shows. And as far as performing goes, that it's easier for me to get up and sing than it is to do public speaking.
Right.
Yeah, so I'd much rather get up and sing a few songs than have to talk about myself or.
That was pretty awesome, I have to say, having you sing. And then you sang my favorite, so that was pretty cool too.
Which was?
Well, I love America, of course, and Sweet Caroline. But I'm a believer. That was fun. That brought back a lot of memories from my childhood.
So I'm a believer's your favorite.
No, actually my favorite is, and you would ask me this right now. It's a slow song. It'll come to me. Love on the Rocks.
Okay, Love on the Rocks. I did. Oh, that's the one.
That's my favorite.
That's a great song. Very intense ballad.
It's very good. So if you have never seen Rob before, he sounds exactly like Neil Diamond. I remember the first time that I saw you and you came out and started singing, I was like, oh my gosh, you're more than like a tribute artist because you like have all his moves.
Well, I mean, just like I think with any actor, that gets hired to play a part, like Jamie Foxx, or I forgot the name of the gentleman that just did Freddie Mercury, and the one that did Elton John. You study your character. If you want to do it well, you study your character, and you go into intense research, and you watch videos, and in my case, it ended up being a career, so I still continue to watch him and for little mannerisms and nuances and the things that I can pick up on.
So I'm going to totally put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So we started having this conversation. Is that my microphone? We started having this conversation on Facebook about the Broadway show.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to do that?
Sorry about that. All right. Did you want to ask me that again?
Yes. I'm going to cough, so can we take a break? Excuse me, that sounded lovely. I have a tickle in my throat. So excuse me just for a second. All right. What? I know. I'm not.
Jeez. Okay.
Yes. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, you ready?
Ready.
And 5,
So we were having a conversation on Facebook about Neil's, they announced, they're gonna do a Broadway. So I said, along with hundreds of other people, why don't you do it?
I mean, it's funny because everyone automatically thinks because I'm a look-alike and a sound-alike that, and everyone's suggesting that I go audition for this. But I know that first of all, this is Broadway. So it's not like it's a film where if you make a mistake, you can shoot it over again. I mean, Broadway, you don't get retakes.
Right.
And I'm not a Broadway, I am not a trained Broadway actor. And I would be nervous if it was even a film. But they can find a lot better people, actors, to do that role. And we're assuming, even though it just was announced about the biographical Broadway show about his life, I'm assuming that someone's going to play him, even though no one's come right out and said that yet. But I'm not the guy for the job. I'm the guy that can, if it requires singing and acting like him, but as far as reciting lines, and it's too much pressure. Too much pressure for me to have to, I don't even think I can remember a whole script, and there's only one take, and that's
Right.
it.
So the pictures that you put up of possibilities,
The pictures I put up of possibilities were for the new Elvis.
yeah, which is ridiculous.
Well, they picked one today.
They did? Who'd they pick?
And they picked a good-looking guy, too. I forgot his name. If you give me 2 seconds, I can tell you. because I started a whole thread, and the guy looks good. The light guy looks good. Now, let's talk about that because it's the same frame of mind. Everyone, they're doing a new big-budget Elvis movie on Elvis's life, and very well-known director. And Tom Hanks is playing Colonel Parker. So that's enough pressure right there. You have to act along with Tom Hanks.
Right.
But I also, a lot of the fans are saying it should be an ETA, but they don't realize that most ETAs are not experienced, reputable actors. And what's going to happen is, if it is an ETA, the critics are going to just tear them apart.
Right.
Just tear them apart. And I've been waiting, being a big Elvis fan as well, I've been waiting a long time for them to make a viable, it's been a long time since they made a viable movie on his life. They made, the Kurt Russell did a great job, but he was like the first one. And they rushed that script. So I still think, I thought, and I told everybody, it has to be an actor, and it turns out it is an actor. And once you look at his face, you'll see that it's not going to be difficult for the makeup department to convert him. And that's the easiest part.
Right.
That's the easiest part. The hardest part is, again, acting, being a good actor and convincing people on screen you're him. And it's going to, even whether it's Elvis or Neil, there's got to be a ton of charisma there, because both gentlemen were very, very charismatic. Well, one still is, but charismatic figures.
So did you see Bohemian Rhapsody?
You know what? I have it, and I have not seen it yet, but I know everyone says it's fantastic.
It's really good, and I think it's interesting that when Elton John's movie came out, he was talking about how he wanted the person portraying him to sing in his own voice, and that he couldn't understand why they had the actor that did Freddie lip sync.
Some movies, they have the actor lip sync, and some movies, they pick actors that can sing. I mean, Jamie Foxx did all the vocals for Ray Charles. We know Gary Busey did all the vocals for Buddy Holly.
Right.
We know Lou Diamond Phillips did Richie Valens. We know, I forgot the gentleman's name, that did Elton. Even though I saw Rocket Man, he did his own vocals. So it's both. We've seen both. If the guy's a good lip syncer, it works as well. But the thing was, he was a great actor. And so was the guy that did Elton John.
Yeah, they both were, I thought.
Yeah.
Did you guys see either movie?
Yes.
Which one did you like best?
Bohemian Rhapsody was definitely a better movie than, we're talking about Against Rocket Man? Yeah, Rocket Man mixed a lot of fantasy and fiction
Right.
with nonfiction. So Rocket Man, in my opinion, I saw it, was better suited for the Broadway stage. A fantasy. Rocket Man's a fantasy musical. You know, they made things up that didn't happen, but Bohemian Rhapsody pretty much followed, you know, the truth.
Yeah, I thought it was a great movie. I really liked it. So
Yeah.
let's picture this. You're on the stage and you're doing Neil Diamond. What's going through your head?
I'm on stage doing Neil Diamond.
What's going through your head?
You know, these days, this is the God's honest truth. These days, when I hit the stage, then very little is going through. I mean, in other words, I become an actor then. You know, I don't have to recite lines except for whatever I want to say. But I'll never say anything that I don't think. I try not to copy things he said off albums. I really try not to say things he says off albums. But I'll say things. I've seen him enough times, and I've been on stage performing him enough to say things that I think he would say, you know, in keeping with his personality. But what's going through my mind is just I want to have a good time with the audience, you know. And I look at them, and am I holding them? Am I losing them? And if I'm losing them, it doesn't matter because I know once I get to Sweet Caroline, they're all gonna sway over to my side anyway. So, it's obviously people that come to see me. They might not be Neil Diamond fanatics, but they're Neil Diamond fans because otherwise you really wouldn't come see me unless you like Neil Diamond. So I mean,
But who doesn't like Neil Diamond?
I say the same thing. You know, even if they don't admit it, they like Neil Diamond or they like one of his songs.
Right.
You know, everybody has a favorite Neil Diamond song, whether it's Red Red Wine or I'm a Believer. Most people don't even realize he wrote those songs.
Right.
You know, or of course Sweet Caroline, which transcends every age group in the world. I mean, I've seen 18-year-olds singing it, and they don't know anything about the guy who sang it, but they love the song.
So when you sing September Morn, so is the emotion that you can see, I mean, I can see emotion in you when you sing that song. So why is that?
You know,
is it the song?
And that's a good question because it actually helps me answer your previous question about what goes through my mind. For some reason with him and his writing, I've been able to relate to a lot of his songs. You know, so if I'm singing "Love on the Rocks," then I'm thinking, in my mind, of a relationship gone wrong, or "You Don't Bring Me Flowers," a relationship that's ending, or a happy song, then I'm thinking of happier times. But he writes he writes a lot of story. You know, "September Morn" is a very romantic song. So I think, maybe at one time someone in my life that I sang that song to, or
Really do tell.
Well, it could be several.
Oh.
It could be several. Yeah. Not at the same time though.
Okay, well, it's good you clarified that.
Not at the same time. But, yeah, but I mean, "Play Me" and "Hello Again" and "September Morn" are all very heartfelt, touching, romantic songs. Then he has a lot of sad songs. You know, "Love on the Rocks," "I Am I Said," songs that can make you cry. You know, so.
And then today, I mean, and every time I've heard the song "America" so many times, I've seen you sing it, but today it was just like, again, you get all the feels.
Yeah, well, America's thank God it's one of our nation's anthems, but it's one of the more uplifting. I mean, America's a song, maybe the only patriotic song that we have that I can think of that makes you want to clap to. I mean, you're not going to clap to the Star Spangled Banner, and you're not going to even clap along to "God Bless the USA." But America makes you do that, and makes you do that. So it's very uplifting, and plus it makes you go today. You know, so and because he's like the king of the hooks. You know, he puts in things like that, so it'll make the audience want to respond, and that's Neil Diamond.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you'd wear your blue shirt.
What's that?
I was kind of hoping you'd wear your blue shirt.
Oh, yeah, well, if you would have told me. Oh, you mean like the sparkly one? Oh, you should. She thinks like I walk around like in the neighborhoods in Vegas and like, or mow my lawn in my blue glitter shirt.
Wait, you don't?
No, I don't. But that's okay. You're not the only one that thinks
Okay, all right, good. I don't want to be the only one.
You're not the only one.
So let's talk about some exciting things that's coming up for you. So are you guys familiar with Hot August Nights? Yes?
Okay, Hot August Night, for those of you.
Feel free, just take over.
Those of you who are not familiar with Hot August Night, it's Neil Diamond's historical, most famous concert album that was recorded in. He's got like 3 or 4 of them called Hot August Night, but the original was recorded in '72 at the Greek Theater, and it's considered one of the greatest live albums. Rolling Stone, it always makes the list of one of the greatest live albums of all time. So it's a very famous album. Now you can take it.
Thank you. So for those of you that are watching, we have an audience. I'm not really talking to just nobody. We actually have a live audience. So has anybody seen Neil live? Neil Diamond? Yes. Raise your hands. Did anybody see him at the Greek?
I didn't even see him at the Greek.
The Hollywood Bowl?
I could say
Anywhere?
LA Forum.
Well, you've seen him. Tell him how many times you've seen him.
I saw him 17, but only once at the Hollywood Forum, and it was his last concert. Actually, ended up being, which I didn't know at the time, because he on his last tour he bypassed Vegas, completely bypassed it, and he was doing 50th anniversary tour. He picked 50 cities. For whatever reason, Vegas wasn't one of them. So I ended up going to LA Forum, and he had 2 concerts there, and I went to the second one, and it ended up, just by coincidence, being his last concert that he ever did in the U.S., because he went to Europe after that. But I didn't know it was going to be his last concert in the U.S., so I'm really glad I went to that one,
So if you were in a room, if you got to be in a room with Neil Diamond, and
17 times.
Like alone.
Oh, if I got to
If
be.
you got to be alone with him in a room and you could ask him one question, what would it be?
If I could ask Neil Diamond one question, I mean, I know what I would ask him, but I don't know if you would get it though, because Neil Diamond in his concerts has a lot of exclamations, and he does this, like he'll sing and he'll go like, huh, and he'll go he, like all those go. Where did that come from? Where did that ever come from? Was just something you did on the spur of the moment? I mean, I don't have any personal. Pretty much, I know everything about him. That's what I would ask him. You didn't ask me what I would tell him.
Okay, what would you tell him?
What I would say to him is I would say, thank you for putting my kid through college, is what I would say to him. Because it's because of him I was able to put my daughter through college. That's what I would say to him.
That's awesome. Your daughter is beautiful.
Thank you. She came out pretty good.
So pretty.
Yeah.
All right. So anyways, wow, we really went off track there. So getting back to Hot August Nights. So he has a lot of shows coming up in August that we're going to talk about. And we have a graphic for that, right, Scott?
Yeah, I'll put that up.
Okay. So July 27th, he's going to be at Sanders Winery in Pahrump, Nevada. August 2nd, Neil Diamond Night at the Las Vegas Aviators Ballpark singing the national anthem, which we learned today at the luncheon he can't wait to do that.
Terrified.
August 10th, he's going to be at Casablanca Casino Resort and Spa in Mesquite, Nevada. August 14th through the 18th, Don Laughlin's Riverside Resort and Casino. August 24th, Suncoast Hotel and Casino, Las Vegas, which you're making your debut.
At that particular casino, yeah.
And then August 31st at the Starbright Theater in Sun City, Summerlin, Nevada. So I was telling Rob that Fred and I got our tickets for the Suncoast last night, and I was looking. There's already a lot of tables and booths sold out already for an event that's like over a month out. So if you want to see him make his debut at that one, I suggest you get on the computer and get your tickets. I'm pretty excited about that one because it's your debut.
I'm excited, and I want to. I don't usually do this, but I want to reach out to my friends and fans and ask them if you can, please come down and support that particular show, because obviously when you're going and making your debut anywhere, you want to make a good example, and you want to be able to go back.
Right.
So, and I know I have I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of loyal friends, and I have some fans and friends, but you want to make an impression. You know, want to make I mean, they know me anyway, but normally every year we've been, since 2009, so the last 8 years, I was doing Hot August Night every year at the Cannery. And as we know, the Cannery became, a couple of years ago, a Boyd property.
Right.
So this year, they decided, let's switch them over to the Suncoast, which is also Boyd property. And I was fine with that. You know, I mean, it's a nice, beautiful room. I've played in there with American Trilogy. American Trilogy has played the Suncoast showroom, but I've never played in there just as Neil Diamond. You know, so that's why I say it's my debut as Neil Diamond, solo show.
I think it's going to be cool. So since you brought up American Trilogy, are we going to see it next year, maybe?
Well, yeah, we're actually working on trying to get a home for that. That's a show that deserves a home.
I agree.
And we've been working diligently for, to try to find someone to back us so we can do it all the time, not just do it once or twice a year. We've been doing it at the South Point, and we've been doing it at the in Casablanca, and it's got a lot of people in the cast. It's like 11 people. And three, including the three front, you got Frank, you got Elvis, and you got Neil. So it's an expensive show, and it's hard to find the budget for that. But so, we're hoping, as much as you are.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
But you gotta have like a big band. I mean, it's not like you just come out with your 8-track or 8-track.
8-track. She said 8-track. She said 8-track. Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna bypass that.
No, leave that one in. You want to leave that one in.
8-track. I don't even know what that is. So
It's the cartridge that our parents put into,
I remember 45s.
I've got a ton of them. Yeah, I still have a ton of them. Still a bunch of Elvis and Neil 45s with the sleeves that I kept.
Wow. What was your first 45 record? Do you remember?
There's no way I'd remember my first 45 record. I could remember what my first Elvis 45 was or my first Neil 45 was, but I wouldn't remember what my first 45 was.
Mine was I Want to Hold Your Hand.
You know what? I don't think that was it for me. But I know that, but I know I had Beatle 45s. My first Elvis 45, which I dug into my parents' collection. Well, collection was in, a dresser or a little cupboard or whatever. And I pulled out "Can't Help Falling in Love with You," and I just listened. And I said, "This guy has like the most beautiful voice I've ever heard in my life." And then Neil, of course, was "Sweet Caroline." Yeah.
So who do you like better, Neil or Elvis?
Okay, that's a very tough. That's really tough for me to say. So the only way I can answer that is say this. I can't say who I like better. I can tell you who Elvis was definitely, and the Beatles before Neil. But they were both the Beatles wanted me to came first, and they wanted me to be a musician. I mean, they didn't want me. They made me want to be a musician. And I saw them, and I didn't think of them as necessarily phenomenal singers. I just thought of them as phenomenal musicians, and they wrote. So, and then Elvis, first I thought Elvis was just a guy in movies that beat up the guy and then sang to the
The girl.
to the guy.
Sang to the guy.
He beat him up, and then he sang, and then he got the girl, and then he sang to her too, So, but Elvis was, after seeing him, he was the one that made me want to be a performer and a singer, And then, of course, they were both gone before we knew it. So, and then I was always a Neil Diamond fan, and then he picked up the slack for me, where those two were no more. Elvis passed, and the Beatles broke up. And I was still young, so I wanted, someone that was a muse or an influence. And I already liked this guy. This guy, I was already a fan of his, so he kind of picked up the slack for me where the Beatles and Elvis left off. So I really didn't answer your question, but I mean,
Well, it's like two different things.
That's why it's so hard for me to answer who my favorite is.
Right.
But I mean, if you made me pick who was your biggest influence, it would be Elvis. Because Elvis came first before Neil Diamond did. And but I also will say this: I didn't see Neil Diamond until '76 when he opened the Aladdin here. And that was a big deal here. That was also historic because it was our first state-of-the-art concert room this town ever had. It was Bicentennial weekend. Now, during that time, I probably had seen Elvis maybe 20 times, and I was seeing Neil for my first time, which took him forever to get here. And I will say this is a fact. At that time, nobody could touch Elvis Presley as far as charisma. Now, I remember this is '76, and we didn't realize Elvis had, July of '76, Elvis had about a year left to live, but we didn't know that.
Right.
And he was on a decline, physically, but I also got to see him when he was in very good shape too. So I saw him every year from '72 to '76. So when I saw him in '72, he was still unbelievable, like amazing. And I never thought I would ever see anyone that could have that kind of charisma, but I did. I got to see Neil Diamond in '76, and Elvis made your jaw drop, and watching Neil in '76 made your jaw drop. And they didn't have to really do anything. There were no pyrotechnics, techniques. There weren't explosions. These were guys that just stood on stage and sang and talked, and you just went like that. They mesmerized you, So that's the best answer I can give you.
So are you ready for, I'm going to put on my coaching hat. I'm going to ask you a business question.
Okay.
So what is your plan, after Neil Diamond, or is there even one?
I mean, technically, my plan is in effect, even though it wasn't meant to be like that, because you said after Neil Diamond. Well, Neil Diamond, my plan is happening right now, and it wasn't one I was counting on this soon. And the plan was, to continue to his legacy and possibly introduce his music to a generation that maybe weren't interested in seeing him or doesn't know too much about him. With him retiring, that kind of forced that plan into effect. So the plan is now, and for as long as I can, I'm going to try to continue to share his music, not just with his fans, but with people that really do not. They know Sweet Caroline, but maybe they don't know a whole bunch of his other songs. And I do get a lot of people in my audience that never seen him. They go, we like. You have no idea how many times I hear, we like Neil Diamond. We may own an album or maybe no albums, but until we saw you, it made us want to run out and we forgot he recorded this one. We forgot. He's in the top 10 of the biggest selling artists of all time, and one of the biggest hit makers of all time. So it's not really I want to obviously please the fans, but to the fanatical fans, they're always going to say, no matter what. If I came on and I was Neil Diamond, they would still say he's not as good as Neil Diamond, because and that's expected, just like with Elvis,
Right.
we know nobody can touch Elvis, and nobody can touch Neil Diamond, but, so I'm not trying to necessarily win over the fanatics, and both guys have a lot of them, so I'm trying to win over the ones that aren't necessarily, they like him, but they're not necessarily, familiar with the whole library of music. And both guys obviously have a lot of prolific works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like an interesting situation, like for a tribute artist. So have you ever seen Purple Rain? That
Yeah,
show
I'm really
here?
good friends with him.
Yeah, so he was saying that, because I'd asked him a question, I said, when Prince passed, what did that do to your career? And he said, it's kind of like a weird thing because he was sad. I mean,
Of course.
right?
Yeah,
He loved Prince.
absolutely.
And he goes, so it was sad. It was difficult like everybody else, but it like amped up his business, like huge, right?
Yeah, yes, it did.
So it's kind of like that kind of weird kind of place to be as a tribute artist.
But the thing is, the Prince fans can't see Prince anymore.
Right.
So they have to, reach out to what they think is the next best thing, and that would be
Right.
Purple Rain.
So have you seen a difference since, that it came out that Neil does have Parkinson's and he's
Yes,
stopped
the
touring?
answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't like things were bad before, but there's definitely, the phone has been ringing a lot more since he's retired.
Right.
Thankfully, he's still with us, and hopefully he'll be with us a long, long time. And we do have, and I'm pretty sure that musical biography is going to help things too.
Oh, sure.
Assuming it's a hit, but I can't imagine that it couldn't be. And so I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm glad. I knew that was coming. I would have hoped it would have came when he was still performing, but I just knew it was coming because you saw Broadway shows with Billy Joel's music, and you saw Broadway shows, 2 of them with Elton John's music, and I'm wondering, like, why isn't this is Neil Diamond? Why isn't he? But I guess he figured, I can't perform it. This is the time to do it.
Right.
But yeah, in answer to your original question, things have definitely, because they can't see him anymore.
Right.
They can't see him anymore.
And you're the closest next thing.
Well, that's a compliment. If I am, that's a, but I'm also
so.
I'm doing him in a different era, than he was doing him. So I get to present him during an era that, not necessarily us, but a lot of people under 40 didn't get to see.
Right. So, all right, so I'm just going to ask it. I'll just be piggy. So you performed a lot of songs for us today at the lunch. Do you think you could just take the show out with maybe just a little piece of Sweet Caroline?
Yeah, you asked me the same thing on your last show.
Oh, and it was fun. Don't you guys want to hear a little bit of Sweet Caroline?
I will. Okay, I will. But everybody's got to do the
Bum bum bum.
yeah, the participation parts, because otherwise it doesn't work.
We got you, Rob. We got you.
Yeah, you got my back, huh? you make them do it, Missy. Okay, all right. So I'm trying to think where I should start from, because you know what? I had my guitar in the car too. I should have brought that in. So I'll go. Hand, touching hand, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Here we go. Sweet Caroline,
Bum bum bum.
good time never seems so good.
So good, so good, so good.
I've been inclined
Bum bum bum.
to believe they never would. One more time with feeling. Oh, sweet Caroline,
Bum bum bum.
good time never seems so good.
So good, so good, so good.
I've been inclined
Bum bum bum.
to believe they
never would. Sweet Caroline.
I can't thank you enough. I always love having you be a guest. I think you're awesome. I don't know what else to say about you that hasn't been said or that I haven't said. But thank you again. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you. I always enjoy being here, and you're a doll. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.